So it's January 4th.
Oh, I already know where this is going.
Right. You're sitting there staring at a brand new, probably highly expensive pair of running shoes.
Yep.
And they were just sitting there perfectly in their little cardboard box. I mean, 3 days ago when you bought those shoes, you felt completely invincible.
You had the whole year mapped out.
Exactly. You were going to be a machine. Day 1, you crushed your workout. Day 2, maybe you were a little sore, but you pushed through it. And now it is day 4.
You just hit the snooze button.
You hit snooze until like 10 a.m. And the mere thought of tying those fresh shoelaces makes you feel utterly just exhausted.
The shoes stay in the box.
They stay in the box, clean, sad, completely unused. And it's like, what exactly happened inside your brain over the last 72 hours?
It's a massive biological shift, really.
It is. And that's what we are unpacking today. We're taking a deep dive into the completely invisible, deeply infuriating, and just wildly misunderstood science of motivation.
Which is such a fascinating topic because we all struggle with it.
We totally do. And we have this amazing stack of source material today that looks at the actual mechanics of why we do things. And I guess more importantly, why we just stop doing things.
Yeah, the dropping off point.
Right. And the sources are primarily framed around this monumental task of learning a new language from scratch, specifically English. But the psychology laid out here, it applies to absolutely everything.
Oh, completely. It's universal.
Yeah, we are looking at universal truth about human behavior, habit formation, and basically how to stop negotiating with yourself every single morning.
It's really a phenomenal lens to view human effort through.
Yeah.
Because learning a language is, well, it's perhaps the ultimate test of sustained endurance,
Oh, totally. Because there's no quick fix.
Right. There is no quick fix.
Yeah.
And the sources take this grand, almost mythological idea of motivation, and they just strip it down to its bare biological and psychological mechanics.
Which I love because we tend to moralize our failures, don't we?
What we constantly do.
Like you think, oh, I didn't put on the running shoes today, therefore I am lazy, or I just lack character.
Exactly. And the beauty of this material is how it removes the judgment entirely. Completely.
Mm-hmm.
It defines motivation not as a moral virtue, but just simply as an internal energy state.
An energy state. That makes so much more sense.
Right. It's the literal reason why you do something.
Yeah.
It's that highly specific biological feeling that rises up inside your chest and just says, I will do this.
And here's the catch. That feeling is essentially a phantom. It's just a biological spike.
Right.
I really want to unpack that crash on day 4 because I know you listening right now, you have felt this exact cycle.
We all have.
We sit on the couch, we decide we are going to learn perfect conversational English or, at least 20 kilos, and we get this immediate massive chemical rush just from the planning phase.
The planning is almost the best part for your brain.
Right. We visualize the end result, we feel amazing, and then 3 days later, we are just running on empty. Why is that initial feeling so incredibly unreliable?
Well, to understand the crash, we really have to understand the spike first. What you're experiencing on the couch, when you buy those shoes or download that language app, is a massive surge of dopamine.
Okay, dopamine, the reward chemical.
Well, actually, no. And that's the critical misunderstanding about dopamine. It is not a reward chemical.
Wait, really? I thought it was.
Most people do. But it's actually a reward anticipation chemical.
Oh, wow. Anticipation.
Yeah. Your brain is giving you a high to motivate you to go get the reward. You imagine yourself speaking flawless English at a dinner party in London, and your brain just floods your system with these feel-good chemicals based entirely on that fantasy.
It's basically giving you a loan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But dopamine is metabolically expensive. Your body cannot sustain that high for very long. By day 4, the anticipation chemical has washed completely out of your system, and you are just left with the cold, hard reality of the actual work.
A grind.
The grind. The feeling vanishes because biology dictates that it absolutely must vanish.
Which means relying on that feeling to get things done is it's like trying to power your entire house with a wind turbine, but you live at the bottom of a really deep valley.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. Like when a rare gust of wind comes through, all the lights blaze and you feel like a superhero. But 90% of the time, the air is dead, the turbine isn't spinning, and you are just sitting in the dark, waiting.
And waiting for a feeling is a terrible strategy.
Yeah, the text points out that if we wait for the feeling of motivation to arrive, we are going to be waiting forever. So if the wind is unreliable, we basically need to build a nuclear reactor instead.
Yes, we need a system.
We need a system that generates baseline power regardless of the weather in our heads. And the sources actually highlight 3 specific ways we actively sabotage our own motivation.
And the first one is a big one.
It is. And it's fascinating because it goes against almost every piece of conventional self-help advice out there. The very first saboteur is that our goals are simply too big.
They're way too big. You see, the human brain is essentially a prediction machine, and it's constantly calculating the caloric cost of any given action.
Right, like how much energy is this going to take?
Exactly. The text uses this brilliant mountain analogy to explain it. If you are standing at the absolute bottom of Mount Everest, and your stated goal is, I'm going to sprint to the summit today.
Which is insane.
Right. Your brain looks at the sheer scale of the peak, calculates the immense physical and mental toll required, and it immediately triggers a fatigue response to protect you.
So it makes you tired on purpose.
Yes. You feel exhausted before you've even taken a single step. When someone says, I want to speak perfect English in 1 month, the cognitive load of that goal is so overwhelming that the brain just shuts down the operation.
It's like blowing a fuse.
Precisely. You surrendered to the sheer scale of the task.
Okay, but I have to challenge this, though, because look at our culture. We absolutely revere the visionary, right? We worship people like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs precisely because they set impossibly massive goals. Like, we are going to colonize Mars. That is a massive mountain.
Yes.
So doesn't the idea of avoiding big goals just kind of breed a culture of mediocrity? Like, if we don't aim for the peak, aren't we just going to stay in the parking lot forever?
That is a very, very common counter-argument. But it really relies on a misunderstanding of what those visionaries are actually doing on, say, a random Tuesday morning.
Okay, what are they doing?
It's the classic confusion between a vision board and daily execution. Having a massive overarching vision, colonizing Mars, or achieving complete fluency in a language that is crucial for direction.
Right. You need a map.
But if Elon Musk woke up every single morning and his only daily to-do list was just colonize Mars, he would be completely paralyzed.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. What the source material is pointing out is that the daily operational goal cannot be the entire mountain. The vision is the mountain. The goal is the next 3 feet of rock.
The vision is the compass, but the goal has to be the next footstep.
Exactly. When we conflate the two, that's when we trigger that biological shutdown.
Wow. Okay, that leads right into the second trap the sources identify. The second reason we lose our drive is that we simply don't see results fast enough.
A speed issue, yeah.
And if you think about the friction between human biology and modern society, this is arguably the biggest hurdle we face today, right?
The mismatch is staggering. Truly staggering. We exist in an environment heavily engineered for instant gratification.
Everything is instant.
Everything. If you want a meal, you press a glass screen, and 30 minutes later, someone hands you hot food. If you want entertainment, you click a button, and a movie streams instantly.
We are so spoiled.
We are. Our brains are being heavily conditioned by fast food, fast internet, instant delivery, to basically expect immediate cause and effect loops in everything we do.
But the human body doesn't operate on a broadband connection.
No, not at all. Biological adaptation is agonizingly slow.
Agonizing.
If you want to wire a completely new language into your neural pathways, or if you want to alter your physical body composition, you are dealing with cellular and neurological processes that take weeks and months, not minutes.
The text emphasizes this phrase, slow but sure.
Slow but sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a modern person studies a language for 3 intense days and then, tries to watch a foreign film and realizes they still can't understand a single sentence.
Which always happens.
Always. The frustration is just immense. The expectation of speed collides with the reality of biology, and the resulting friction basically destroys the desire to continue.
So we have these 3 massive saboteurs. We're intimidated by the size of the whole mountain. We are frustrated that climbing it isn't as fast as ordering a pizza, and we are relying on this fleeting dopamine spike that is absolutely guaranteed to vanish.
A recipe for disaster.
Literally. So if the natural state of the human brain is to eventually give up and conserve energy, how do we hack the system? The source material moves directly from diagnosing the disease to prescribing the cure, and it starts with what it calls internal drivers.
Yes, this is where it gets really practical.
Specifically, the necessity of digging past the surface to find your deep why.
Right. And this is where we really separate the casual hobbyist from the person who actually achieves mastery. The source draws a really sharp distinction between the what and the why.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, What is the mechanical goal? I want to learn English, or I want to run 3 miles. The what is usually pretty obvious.
Sure.
But the text insists that knowing what you are doing is entirely insufficient for survival in the messy, difficult middle of a long-term project. You need to identify the deep-rooted, often highly emotional reason beneath it.
Because the what doesn't provide any emotional leverage when you're tired. Like, if my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and it's cold and it's dark outside, the fact that I want to, quote unquote, learn vocabulary isn't going to get me out of bed.
Not a chance.
But if the reason I am learning that vocabulary is because I desperately need to pass an exam, to secure a visa, or to get a better job, or, to pull my family out of poverty now, that is a profoundly heavy why.
And that why acts as a psychological anchor. Because motivation, as we established earlier, is going to disappear.
It's guaranteed.
That's a biological guarantee.
Yeah.
So when you are staring at a textbook or that pair of running shoes and feeling absolutely zero desire to engage, you pull on that anchor.
The text has this great mantra here. The why keeps you going.
It really is the backup generator that kicks in when the wind turbine of your motivation stops spinning.
Right.
It isn't about feeling excited anymore. It's about remembering the stakes.
Remembering the stakes. I like that. Let me take that a step further, though, because knowing the stakes still doesn't totally solve the problem of the mountain being too terrifying to climb. Like, even if my why is incredibly strong, if my daily task is too huge, I'm still going to freeze up. And this is where the source offers a piece of advice that seems almost, laughably simple.
But it works.
It totally fundamentally rewires how we approach effort. Instead of setting a normal goal, it says to set an embarrassingly small goal.
Yes. Micro goals.
Yeah.
It is all about subverting the brain's threat detection system.
Right.
Because remember, the brain resists massive effort to conserve energy. If you say, I'm going to study grammar for 2 straight hours today, the psychological friction is enormous.
Oh, yeah. Your brain will find anything else to do.
It throws up every possible distraction to stop you. Oh, I need to clean the kitchen first. Oh, I should check my email. But if you manipulate the parameters and you tell yourself, I am only going to study for 5 minutes.
It's just 5 minutes.
Or I'm going to learn just 3 new words. The brain assesses that task and realizes the caloric cost is entirely negligible. The threat response doesn't trigger at all.
The friction to start basically drops to 0. The source uses reading as a prime example here, and I just think it is so brilliant. If you want to build a reading habit, do not commit to reading a chapter a night. Commit to reading 2 pages.
2 pages. Anyone can do that.
Right. Just 2 pages before you turn off the light. It sounds so completely insignificant that you can't possibly make an excuse not to do it. But here is the magic trick hidden inside this strategy. Getting started is universally the hardest part of any endeavor.
Absolutely.
It's literally the physics of inertia. A body at rest wants to stay at rest. But once you open the book and read those 2 pages, the inertia is broken. You are now a body in motion.
And a body in motion wants to stay in motion. The psychological barrier to entry was literally the only thing holding you back.
Once you're past it, you're free.
Right. Once you were actually doing the task, you almost always exceed the micro goal. You read 10 pages instead of 2. You study for 20 minutes instead of 5.
The source text explicitly maps out this feedback loop. It says, start small, feel good, do more.
Start small, feel good, do more. It's a perfect loop. By setting a tiny goal, you practically guarantee success.
Right, because you can't fail at 2 pages.
Exactly. And that guaranteed success gives you a small, authentic dopamine hit, not from anticipation this time, but from actual completion.
Which feels great.
It does. And that positive feeling generates real, organic momentum to continue.
It is essentially a Trojan horse. You sneak the habit past your brain's defenses by making it look incredibly small, and once it's inside, you unpack it.
That's a great way to put it.
But let's look at the long game for a second. Knowing our deep why and using the Trojan horse of micro goals, that's all fantastic for getting off the couch on a random Tuesday.
Sure.
But eventually, even setting those micro goals requires conscious thought, right? It requires willpower. And willpower, much like our wind turbine, is a totally finite resource. If we have to consciously negotiate with ourselves every single day, we are eventually going to lose.
Which is precisely why the source material demands that we shift our focus from internal willpower to external frameworks.
We have to outsource the heavy lifting.
We have to outsource it to our environment and our schedule. The ultimate objective of any behavioral change is automation. And the text tackles this through the concept of building a rigid routine.
moving the action out of the decision-making part of the brain and into the autopilot part of the brain.
Precisely. Because when you first start a new behavior, it heavily taxes the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for complex planning and decision-making.
And that's why it's so exhausting at first.
It is exhausting.
Right.
But as you repeat a behavior in the same context over and over, the brain actually physically shifts the processing of that action to the basal ganglia, which is the habit center.
Wait, there's a specific habit center?
Yeah, the basal ganglia. It takes over and the action becomes automatic. The text provides the perfect, universally understood parallel for this, which is brushing your teeth.
Okay, yeah. That is the ultimate automated habit.
Think about the mechanics of your morning. You do not wake up, stand next to your bed, and engage in a deep philosophical debate with yourself about whether you have the emotional fortitude to brush your teeth today.
No, I definitely do not.
You don't need to watch a motivational YouTube video to get you to the bathroom sink.
Yeah.
You just walk in and do it, completely devoid of emotion.
It's just hardwired.
It's hardwired into the sequence of your morning.
The text actually has a quote that I kind of want to put on a billboard somewhere. It says, "Motivation is nice, but routine is reliable."
Routine is reliable.
If you attach your new goal to an existing sequence, say, every morning I pour my coffee, and while the coffee is brewing, I listen to a 5-minute English audio lesson, the resistance just evaporates. The coffee becomes the trigger, the audio lesson becomes the automated response.
Exactly. It's chained together.
But I do have a problem with this.
Oh.
Let's assume we do this perfectly, right? The routine is locked in, we are on autopilot. What happens when you are 3, 4, maybe 5 months into this perfectly automated routine and you just hit the plateau?
The plateau.
Yeah. You are doing the work, but you look at your progress and think, I am exactly where I started. I still can't understand a native speaker. I haven't lost another pound. I mean, routine without visible progress can turn into a grind very quickly.
It really can. And that is the most dangerous phase of any pursuit. It is often referred to in psychology as the messy middle.
The messy middle, I like that.
When you are inside that daily grind, the microscopic changes in your neurology or your physiology are entirely invisible to the naked eye. Which brings us to a really crucial structural defense mechanism the source advocates. You must meticulously track your progress.
Track your progress.
You absolutely cannot rely on your memory or your feelings to gauge your success.
Because our memory is fundamentally biased, right? Especially when we are feeling discouraged. If I'm frustrated, my brain will actively delete the memory of how bad I was 6 months ago just to justify my current bad mood.
Precisely. Your brain focuses entirely on the gap between where you are now and the summit of the mountain. It completely ignores how far you have already climbed.
It's so unfair to ourselves.
It is. And the source uses a very stark illustration of this. Imagine you're learning vocabulary. Day to day, you might feel completely stagnant. You feel like a failure. But if you have been keeping a daily notebook, you can physically flip back to page 1 from 3 months ago.
And what do you see?
You can look at the data and see that, hey, I started with 50 words, and today I know 500 words.
Which, when you look at the raw data, going from 50 to 500 is a massive leap.
It's huge.
It is undeniable proof that the system is working.
It essentially acts as an external hard drive for your motivation. It takes invisible, incremental progress and converts it into tangible, physical evidence.
So when your brain tries to lie to you...
Exactly. When it tells you that you are wasting your time, you just look at the notebook. The visual proof interrupts the negative thought spiral, and the immediate psychological response is, wow, look at how much ground I have covered. I am not going to throw this away now.
It's hard evidence against your own self-doubt. I love that. So, okay, we have built the internal anchor with our why. We have tricked our brain with small goals. We have automated the process with routine, and we are tracking our data to prove we are moving forward.
That's a solid foundation.
It is. But we don't exist in a vacuum, do we? We live in a chaotic world surrounded by other people. So how much does our external environment dictate our internal drive?
According to the source material, the environment is essentially the invisible hand that shapes almost all of our behavior.
Really? Almost all of it?
Yeah. We like to believe we are fiercely independent individuals, but psychologically, we are deeply susceptible to emotional contagion.
Emotional contagion.
Yes. The text is incredibly direct about the impact of the people we surround ourselves with. We operate on a concept known in psychology as social baseline theory.
Social baseline theory? What does that mean in practice?
It means we essentially outsource part of our emotional regulation to the people in our immediate vicinity.
So, which means if I'm standing in a room full of people who are constantly striving, learning, and, pushing their own boundaries, my brain unconsciously calibrates to that standard.
Exactly. You rise to the baseline.
The energy is like a contagious virus, but a highly beneficial one. I catch the motivation bug just by being in their proximity.
You absolutely do. But, and this is but the inverse is equally true. And the source provides a very stern warning about this. You must actively and ruthlessly protect your energy from negative influences.
The energy vampires.
Right. There are people in your life who will observe you trying to better yourself, waking up early, studying, changing your habits, and they will attempt to drag you back down.
They'll say, that's too hard. Why are you even bothering? You're never going to be fluent. Let's just go out.
Exactly. We all know the dream crushers.
We do. And the painful reality is that sometimes those dream crushers are the people closest to us.
Very often, yes.
And they aren't necessarily doing it maliciously, right? It's just that your attempt to change threatens their comfort zone. It kind of holds up a mirror to their own stagnation.
That's spot on. And the text advises that while you may love those people, you have to mentally quarantine their opinions.
Mentally quarantine, wow.
You have to seek out communities, even digital ones, where the baseline behavior is growth. The source notes that just by showing up to a class or logging into a learning forum, you are actively engaging with positive energy, and you need to deliberately give yourself credit for taking that step.
Giving yourself credit is such an interesting concept. We are so incredibly quick to punish ourselves, but we rarely acknowledge the sheer effort it takes just to show up in the first place.
We rarely do.
Which actually bridges perfectly into the next environmental hack the source provides, which is this system of rewards. When I was reading this section of the material, I couldn't help but laugh because honestly, it sounds exactly like the protocol for training a golden retriever.
Well, it kind of is.
But in this scenario, you are both the trainer and the dog.
Exactly. It's a textbook application of operant conditioning, which is one of the most thoroughly proven mechanisms in behavioral psychology.
Okay, let's open up the hood on operant conditioning. How exactly are we hacking our own neural pathways here?
Well, the human brain, as we discussed with a mountain analogy, really struggles with long-term timelines. It simply does not want to suffer today for some theoretical payoff 2 years from now.
It wants to pay off now.
Right. Operant conditioning bridges that gap by artificially injecting a short-term reward into the process.
Okay.
You set a small goal, say 30 minutes of intensive language study. When the timer goes off, you immediately provide yourself with a highly pleasurable stimulus.
Like what?
You watch an episode of your favorite television show, or you eat a specific treat.
And with absolutely no guilt attached, because the reward is earned.
Exactly.
But how does that actually change my desire to study tomorrow? I mean, I'm just bribing myself.
You are. But here's what is happening on a neurological level. When you pair the high-friction, uncomfortable task of studying with the high dopamine, pleasurable reward of the television show, your brain begins to associate the two.
Oh, I see.
You are creating a neurological deal with yourself. Over time, the brain anticipates the reward while you are doing the difficult work. You are literally rewiring your brain to view the effort itself as the pathway to pleasure.
So the studying becomes the trigger for the good feeling.
Yes. You train your nervous system to tolerate and eventually even crave the discipline because it knows the payoff is guaranteed.
You are basically artificially closing the distance between the effort and the payoff. That is a brilliant hack.
Yeah.
So, all right, we have constructed this incredibly robust external scaffolding. We have our routines, our tracking notebooks, our positive social circle, and our carefully calibrated reward system.
That sounds pretty airtight.
It sounds foolproof. But the source material pivots here to make a really profound point, and it's this. You can have the most perfect external environment in the world, but if the environment inside your own head is toxic, the entire structure will inevitably collapse.
Yes, this is truly the crux of the entire deep dive. Moving from the mechanics of action to philosophy of internal dialogue.
The things we say to ourselves.
Because no matter how good your system is, you are going to make mistakes. You are going to fail. And the moment of failure is exactly where your internal dialogue dictates your future.
Let's talk about that moment of failure then. Because the default human reaction to making a mistake is usually incredibly hostile.
We are our own worst critics.
We really are. If you are practicing a new language and you completely butcher a sentence in front of a native speaker, or if you just sleep through your alarm and miss a workout, the immediate internal voice is just brutal. It's like, I am so stupid. Why did I even try? I am never going to get this.
And the text points out that this specific flavor of self-talk is a one-way ticket to quitting.
Because you are actively punishing yourself for the crime of attempting something difficult.
Precisely. And the source material contrasts this destructive default programming by outlining two fundamentally opposed psychological frameworks. We have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Okay, walk us through the mechanics of the fixed mindset first. Why is it so dangerous?
A fixed mindset is anchored in the belief that human abilities, intelligence, and talents are static traits.
Unchangeable.
Right. You believe you were basically born with a certain allocation of skill, and that is it. So if you struggle with language learning, your internal narrative is, well, I am just bad at languages. My brain isn't wired for this.
It literally becomes your identity.
Exactly. And the danger of tying your failure to your identity is that it makes effort seem pointless.
Yeah, why bother?
Right. If you believe you are fundamentally incapable of change, then trying hard and still failing is the ultimate humiliation. It proves your inadequacy. Therefore, the safest play for your ego is to just stop trying. The fixed mindset stops you before you even reach the mountain because it convinces you that you don't even have the lungs to climb it. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy built entirely on self-preservation and self-punishment.
It's really tragic when you frame it like that because it completely shuts the door on neuroplasticity. It just ignores the biological fact that the brain can change. So the antidote to this poison is the growth mindset.
Yes. A growth mindset is rooted in the biological reality that abilities can be cultivated and developed through sustained effort.
It separates your identity from your current skill level.
Exactly. In a growth mindset, a mistake is not a permanent tattoo of your stupidity. It is merely data.
Just data.
Just data. When you mispronounce that word in front of the native speaker, instead of saying, I am an idiot, you say, well, that was embarrassing, but now I know exactly how not to say it. What can I learn from this?
The core philosophy is that effort equals progress. And the text provides a really beautiful, simple mantra for this. Every day, I get a little better.
Every day, I get a little better.
It takes all the pressure off the final destination and places all the value on the daily trajectory. And speaking of unnecessary pressure, the source identifies what I think is probably the ultimate modern destroyer of the growth mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is the weaponization of comparison, specifically looking at other people on social media.
It is completely fatal to motivation. The danger of the digital age is that we all have front row seats to everybody else's highlight reels.
And none of their bloopers.
Right. When you are slogging through the messy middle, feeling incompetent and slow, and you open up your phone to see a 20-year-old on YouTube speaking 7 languages fluently.
Or displaying a flawless physique.
Exactly. The immediate cognitive reaction is just despair. You ask yourself, why am I so far behind?
You are comparing your messy behind-the-scenes reality to their heavily edited final production.
And it paralyzes you.
Yeah.
But the text offers a golden rule here, a sort of mental firewall against this despair. You are not in competition with anyone on that screen. You are only competing with who you were yesterday.
I honestly want to carve that into stone. Are you a little better than you were yesterday? That is the solitary metric that dictates success.
And if the answer is yes, you are winning.
Even if the improvement is a microscopic, barely measurable 1%. The source repeats this phrase. Progress is progress. By shrinking your horizon of comparison to just your own past self, you eliminate the toxic noise of the outside world.
It shifts your locus of control inward. You cannot control the YouTube prodigy, but you can control whether you read your 2 pages tonight.
You can always control the 2 pages. Okay, this framework is incredibly empowering. We have the internal drivers, the automated systems, the psychological safeguards, but let's step out of the laboratory and into the real world for a second.
Things get messy.
Life is incredibly messy. Emergencies happen, sickness happens. What happens when the entire framework just crashes? What happens when you wake up and you are just having a terrible, horrible, physically and emotionally draining day?
This is where the source material proves its immense practical value. It does not peddle toxic positivity.
Thank goodness.
Right. It acknowledges a fundamental, undeniable truth. 100% motivation is a myth. No human being on Earth operates at peak capacity every single day.
Not even the pros.
Not Olympic athletes, not billionaire CEOs, no one. Everyone crashes. And because crashes are inevitable, the text provides a highly specific 3-step survival guide for the bad days.
This is the safety net. Let's unpack the survival guide because it is so practical. Step 1 is almost radical. Step 1 is accept it. Don't fight it.
Don't fight it.
And I think this is where we usually spiral. Our immediate reaction to a bad day is to layer immense guilt on top of our exhaustion. We think, I should be studying. I am breaking my streak. I am such a failure.
And the guilt requires energy to process. So now you are exhausted, and you are using your remaining energy to emotionally beat yourself up, which only deepens the exhaustion.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is. The source advises a radical, gentle acceptance. You simply say to yourself, today is a bad day, my energy is gone, and that is okay. It will pass.
And the text offers this brilliant piece of perspective to neutralize the panic. It reminds you that you have survived exactly 100% of your bad days so far.
You have a perfect track record.
A perfect track record of surviving bad days. So you stop fighting the reality of the exhaustion. Now, step 2 of the survival guide is, in my opinion, the most brilliant psychological hack in the entire deep dive. Step 2, do the minimum.
Yes. It is the ultimate defense against losing momentum.
But the logic here is a bit counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is. If you normally study for an intense hour, but today you are running on empty, do not try to force the hour. You will fail and you will feel worse. Instead, do 5 minutes.
Just 5.
If your routine is a 30-minute run, put on the shoes and walk around the block for 3 minutes.
But how does 3 minutes of walking actually help? Physiologically, it does almost nothing.
Physiologically, it is completely negligible, but psychologically, it is monumental. The goal on a bad day is not to make massive forward progress. The goal is entirely about preserving the mental architecture of the routine. The source uses the phrase, just keep the habit alive.
Just keep the habit alive.
By doing the absolute bare minimum, you prevent the chain from breaking. You protect your identity as the kind of person who shows up even when it is miserable. Stopping completely is easy, but the activation energy required to restart after a week of doing absolutely nothing is immense.
It's like restarting an engine in the cold.
Exactly. 5 miserable minutes keeps the pilot light on.
Keep the pilot light on. Just keep the habit alive. It is absolute brilliance. You are defending the infrastructure, not the output.
Exactly.
Which leads right to step 3. Be kind to yourself. The text suggests altering your internal monologue to match how you would speak to a loved one.
We are so much nicer to our friends.
We are. If your best friend called you and said, I am completely burned out today, I can't do my workout, you wouldn't scream at them and call them lazy.
Of course not.
You would say, you have been working hard. Take a breath. Tomorrow is a new day.
And we must extend that same grace to ourselves. Tomorrow is a new day is a reminder that every sunrise is a fresh start. You wipe the slate clean. You do not carry the guilt of yesterday's 5-minute bare minimum effort into today's session.
You just start over. Now, to really solidify how all these abstract, high-level psychological concepts work on the ground, the source material applies them to a massive, overarching test case.
Yes, the crucible.
And that test case is the monumental task of language learning.
Learning a new language, particularly for an adult, is really the perfect crucible for this framework. It requires years of sustained effort. The gratification is incredibly delayed. It forces you to confront your ego and your fear of looking foolish.
It's terrifying.
It is. If a system can keep you motivated to learn a language, it can keep you motivated to do pretty much anything.
Okay, let's walk the listener through the entire system as applied to this crucible. We start with the anchor, the why. You don't just say, I want to pass an English test.
No, that's too weak.
You define the deeply personal, emotional leverage. You are doing this so you can navigate an international airport without anxiety. You are doing it so you can connect with a whole new hemisphere of humanity.
And with that anchor firmly set, you move to the small goals to prevent the mountain from crushing you.
Right.
Instead of demanding fluency by summer, you shrink the daily expectation. The goal is 5 new words a day. And the source uses a profoundly beautiful analogy here, comparing language learning to the growth of a great tree.
Oh, I love this analogy.
If you pull up a chair and stare at a tree every single day, it appears entirely static. You will swear it is not growing, but if you walk away and look at it a year later, the branches have reached the sky. Slow but sure.
Slow but sure. And you protect that slow growth with routine. You attach the learning to an unbreakable anchor in your day. Listening to the audio lesson on the commute, reviewing flashcards while the kettle boils.
The environment triggers the behavior.
And you defend yourself against the illusion of stagnation by tracking it all. You maintain that vocabulary notebook, so when the messy middle makes you feel like you are failing, you have hard physical proof that the tree is, in fact, growing.
And finally, you shape your external environment to force the adaptation. The source calls this immersion.
Immersion.
You basically throw yourself into the swimming pool of the language.
So immersion is the ultimate environmental hack. You change your phone's operating language, you consume media in the target language, you surround yourself with the environment of your goal.
And the profound insight here is that when you immerse yourself, learning ceases to be a forced, isolated chore that requires heavy willpower.
It just becomes life.
It becomes a natural, inescapable byproduct of simply navigating your environment.
That is the ultimate tipping point. When the goal becomes a way of life, rather than just an item on a to-do list, you no longer have to force the motivation. It just happens.
It's automatic.
We have covered a massive amount of psychological terrain today. From the dopamine traps to the basal ganglia, from the growth mindset to the survival guide for bad days. But before we close, the source text does something incredibly direct.
It really puts the reader on the spot.
It does. It pivots away from theory and poses 4 direct, highly confrontational practice questions to the reader. And we are going to direct those exact questions to you, the listener, right now.
The intention behind these questions is to force immediate application, because insight without action is just entertainment. If you actually want to change your behavioral pathways, you have to engage with the material and make a decision today.
So wherever you are right now, I want you to actually answer these. Do not let yourself off the hook.
Yeah.
What is one goal you have right now? And do not say, I don't know. You know exactly what it is. You know exactly what you have been delaying, what you've been making excuses for. Bring it to the front of your mind right now.
Got it. Okay. Question 2. What is your deep why? Dig past the surface. Why do you actually want this? Is it for your family's security? Is it to prove something to yourself? Is it for the ultimate freedom to live how you want? Find the anchor.
You have to know what's holding you down.
Question 3. What is one small step you can take today? Not next week, not on Monday. Today. What is the 5-minute, 2-page equivalent for your specific goal that you can execute before you go to sleep tonight?
Make it incredibly small.
And finally, question 4. What will you do when a bad day comes?
That final question, I think, really separates the resilient from the fragile. Most people operate on the delusion that their journey will be entirely smooth.
Which it never is.
Never. When they inevitably hit a wall, they shatter because they have no protocol for failure. But if you mentally rehearse your failure now, if you plan for the bad day before it arrives, it loses its power over you.
You simply recognize the exogenous, flip the switch, and execute the Keep the Habit Alive protocol. 5 minutes of effort, absolutely zero guilt, and you just try again tomorrow. The bad day becomes a planned detour, not a dead end.
Exactly.
A planned detour.
As we pull all of this together, what is the single most important revelation we can take away from this entire deep dive? I really think it is the realization that our cultural definition of motivation is completely, utterly backwards.
It's a Hollywood myth.
It is. We are sold this fantasy that real motivation looks like jumping out of bed at 4 a.m., screaming with boundless energy, ready to conquer the world. And we think if we don't feel that electric excitement, something is intrinsically wrong with us. But that excitement is a myth.
It is a biological impossibility to sustain. The text strips away all the drama and clarifies it beautifully. True, enduring motivation is not an emotion.
It's not.
It is a commitment. It is a quiet, conscious decision. It is the choice to execute the necessary behavior even when the task is difficult, and especially when the feeling of excitement is entirely dead. When your commitment to the routine and your deep why carry you forward, the presence or absence of the feeling of motivation becomes entirely irrelevant.
Doesn't matter how you feel.
It is no longer about how you feel. It is about becoming the kind of person who simply continues to put one foot in front of the other. And that leads me to the final thought I want to leave you with today. It builds on a very powerful quote buried in the source material. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Such a powerful framing.
I want you to really consider what greatness, what untapped potential you are currently delaying in your life because you are sitting on the couch waiting for the perfect feeling to arrive, waiting for the wind turbine to spin. If we accept that endless excitement is a myth and that quiet commitment is the only reality, what happens to your life if you start treating your biggest, most terrifying goals exactly like brushing your teeth?
Just automated.
Devoid of emotion. devoid of dramatic internal debates. Just an absolutely 100% non-negotiable part of your day. The shoes are in the box. Do not wait for the feeling. Tie the laces today and everything else will follow.